Hi, and welcome to Two Tired Teachers. Today's episode of Alaska on a Budget is Fishing Alaska by someone who knows nothing. And so, let me just preface this by saying if you are an avid angler and you are really serious about fishing, then this video is not for you. But if you're like me, we were planning an RV trip to Alaska. I love to fish, and I wanted to just get out there and have some fun and hopefully catch a few fish, and I'll let you know what I did. I think my totals, 4 Artic Grayling, which are fish I had never caught before. Believe it was somewhere between 25 and 30 rainbow trout. Some really nice trout there, and I will tell you the trout in Alaska, the meat is really a pinkish, it's really, really good. Caught that many, I believe I kept 8 that we have had. And then salmon, I had not planned on salmon fishing and then got up here and found out I could. And was able to cobble together some stuff so that I could have some fun and success with that. And I believe I landed a total of 18 salmon. One of those was a king, so he had to go back, but I kept 6. And so I have had a ball. And let me just tell you, I was not fishing every day. We've been here 2 months. There were days where it was raining a lot, or we weren't near water, or it was too windy, or whatever. But those days where we had some downtime, or days where we were just pulling over and stopping, Mylena was fixing lunch, I was able to get out there and have a line in the water and had a lot of fun. So, one of the things I want to tell you about are the regulations. And there actually is a 4th one that I don't have, because it actually is the one that has the Bering Strait, and I knew I wasn't going over there, so wasn't that worried about that. This is the northern section, and the thing that frustrated me a little bit about this is that they don't use towns, they use waterways and tributaries and drainage sections, and so sometimes it was a little bit difficult to know for sure which section am I in. But this is pretty straightforward. If you can go online and look at it, download it, whatever, or you can pick these up at any visitor center. If it's just like Glen Allen is a little town that has a visitor center, they have these. Seward, Homer, anywhere. If there's a visitor center, they're going to have these fishing regulations available for you. And I will say that as of the 2024 year, the annual out-of-state license was $100. So for a lot less than I could hire a guide or a charter, I was able to get an annual out-of-state license, and I could fish anytime that I was near water and wanted to. Another thing I want to mention is you can go to Alaska Lakes, and it will show what is stocked and when it was stocked and how many of those were stocked. But this northern section, the man at Glen Allen told me that they are in this as well, and so this section is really pretty thin and pretty easy to follow. And anytime you have questions, the back has a list of phone numbers for the area where you are. So there's one at Delta Junction, for this one at the northern part, Delta Junction, Glen Allen, Delta Junction, Fairbanks, Nome, and Bethel. So there are phone numbers. If you're unsure about the regulations or what you can do, there's that one. This is one that I'm getting ready to look at. We're getting ready to leave the main part of Alaska. And so we're going to be going to Canada, going down to Hyder, and that's going to be in this little section of southeastern Alaska. So I'll be checking that out. But this one's not too bad either, because it's such a small section. The one that is hard, sorry, this is a novel here. This is huge. And it is the South Central. It includes the Kenai Peninsula. And this includes both fresh and saltwater, and folks, this gets really complicated. There are sections in here where it has, okay, for this half-mile stretch of this river on these dates, you can fish for these particular fish with these hooks. It gets that specific. And if you don't know where that waterway is, then it makes it really, really difficult. One of the best pieces of advice that I was given about this section is, if it's moving water and you're the only one fishing it during the summer, if it's moving water, you're the only one fishing it, then you probably shouldn't be fishing there. And so I just kind of kept that in mind. But you can go online, you can look at these regulations there, you can pick up copies, or they say they'll mail them to you. I requested them, didn't get them before we left. But they're very helpful, very, very helpful, and the phone numbers are wonderful. Some things that were really different. If you've never, let me go on and show you if this has, yeah. They do give you in these books, and you can just download these graphics online, but it shows you the fish that are available, and they do have some of the places that they have stocked, not a complete list, and those are also, there's a chart in each book showing what's been stocked, etc. But it at least gives you some idea what you're looking for. And we have spent a number of nights just doing some dispersed camping next to stocked ponds or lakes. And that has been a lot of fun. And so with the salmon fishing, since that was something that was really new and different to me, and I had not planned on doing that, and so the learning curve's been pretty high. But on the Kenai River, we were at Soldotna with the Alaska Missions for the dip net fishing, which is just for locals. We were helping serve on the beach there. Found out that I could rod and reel just fish from the shore. I'd never heard of flossing before for fish. I'd heard of flossing, but not for fish. And so honestly stopped at a garage sale. Man sold me a Garcia Mitchell 300 reel for $2. Said, this will land a salmon for you. Got some 25-pound line and put it on a little Dock Demon rod. Everybody down at the river was saying, you're using an ice fishing rod. And it's what I've got. My trout stuff was working. I didn't want to mess it up, so this is what I had. But folks, I went to a visitor center in Soldotna, and it was actually the National Wildlife Refuge Visitor Center. They gave me a map of where I could access the river for free in Soldotna. I went to the Soldotna Park. I don't remember the exact name of it. But here's something I want you to know. While I was out fishing, 2 different times while I was fishing and visiting with the people around me, as my tendency is, 2 different times, the people fishing on either side, of one side or the other, they were guides. And their downtime, they were out there fishing the same places I was. And a 3rd time, when I was fishing on a river, a guide came up, docked his dinghy. The 2 guys that he was guiding, he got them out and said, pointed to where I was fishing basically and said, fish there. So you don't have to have those guides, or if you do a guide or a charter, this can help you then on the other times. But the other thing about salmon fishing was, so that's flossing, and essentially it's a 2/0 hook with about a 3-foot leader, depending on the water, a 1/2 ounce, 3/4 ounce weight, about 3 feet up. You want the weight heavy enough to keep your hook down in the water, but you want it light enough that the current will wash it downstream. So you cast out in front, you allow that line to flow downstream. The salmon are going upstream with their swimming with their mouths open. So the hope is you then hook one of them in the mouth as that floats down. I did catch a king, the first salmon I ever caught. And thankfully, there were people there to help me. A young man on one side said, he's from Wisconsin. Ma'am, do you want me to net that for you? I'm like, yes, please. And he said, I think it's a king. And the gentleman from Washington on the other side, does it have diamonds on the back, diamonds on the tail? It's a king. So we released him, obviously. But then down at Homer, it was a different situation. I never really figured out what they were doing, but there is a big punch bowl kind of thing. I don't know what else to tell you. As you're going south, you'll see it on the left. Those people were using bobbers, and essentially those fish are just swimming back and forth and around in this circle. And you may not snag. You're still trying to essentially do the floss. But we were there at low tide. It was a little bit difficult to figure out. Then at Valdez, you do snag. Salt water is what I found out. You snag. And as you're going into Valdez, there's a sign for the hatchery, which is an amazing thing. If you want more information about that, we have a video about our travels to Valdez. But when you go down past the hatchery, all the way down to the end, there's a path. You looks like you're going, well, when you get down to where it says you do not enter, the FBI warnings, that's the end of the pipeline. There's kind of a parking area over there, and looks like you're going down in a jungle. It will take you down to the beach, and that's Allison's Point, I believe is the name of it. But you can fish down a lot of different places. That just had fairly easy access. And at low tide there, you are snagging. And so I was using the same setup I did for flossing, and I was having luck. I was catching fish. But this gentleman said he's from Russia, and he's like, no, and he gave me a weighted treble hook. Well, then I was catching all the time. But the first one I caught was a silver, and I asked the lady who was fishing next to me, would you mind taking my picture? And she said, well, do you want the bear in the background? I'm like, oh, there's a bear. Well, he wasn't bothering us because at high tide, any really weak fish had been deposited, and he was up there eating his fill. There were sea lions out there eating their fill, and then you have all of these seagulls cleaning up whatever's left. And so it was just a lot of fun, and it's the only time at Valdez where I have fished until I was really tired, because it was very physical. These fish can fight, and it was a lot of fun. I did end up getting a $15 rod and reel combo at Walmart so that I'd have a decent rod to put this big reel on, and our freezer is full of salmon that we're taking home, and it has been so much fun. But whenever I was looking for any kind of information about fishing in Alaska, it was all about guides, and mostly about guides, and or having to, hike down, and anyway, really inconvenient. And I'm telling you that I haven't had to hike any trails out in the middle of the wilderness, and it's been pretty close. And I will tell you, one other thing is at Valdez, as we were filling up with gas, there were some other people that were there getting some propane, and these ladies were visiting with us, and they asked what we thought of Valdez, and I said, this salmon fishing has been so much fun. And they said, oh, you caught? And I said, yes. And they said, well, our husbands went out, and they didn't, with a guide, and they didn't catch. And I said, really? And they said, where did you go? And I said, Allison's Point, down at the end, it's free. And they said they should have gone there. We ended up paying $35 a pound for salmon. So, folks, even if I hadn't caught, I was salmon fishing in Alaska. I've been fishing in some of the most amazing places. I've been fishing with Denali in the background, with snow-capped mountains across on a different pond or lake, and it has been absolutely phenomenal. And so if you enjoy fishing but you don't want to break the bank, that's really the point of this, is to let you know you can come here. You can, for your out-of-state license, you can come here, fish, and have an amazing time. And yesterday, as we're getting ready to leave, I I actually did have my license checked. So there was a customs agent, which I guess does some other stuff as well. But I was asking him if there were any fish where I was. Tried to do some pike fishing. People had told me they're pike. Didn't catch any, but once again, I was out there on the water in my little kayak, and man, I had a lot of fun. And I will tell you, I do have a Tuk-Tuk foldable kayak and have some videos about that, and that has been an amazing way to be able to get out on some of these waters and just have a great time. The Artic Grayling that I caught on the Denali Highway at Cantwell, which is the side with Denali, we came across 8 miles. There was a pond there, caught the grayling there. Trout, just north of Delta Junction, there's a place called Shaw Pond, very accessible. We literally were camping with our door opening at the pond, caught a bunch of trout there, and the salmon, most of those were down at Valdez. It's just been so much fun, and man, I've had a ball, and if I've caught, that's been great, and if I haven't, I've had a great time being out there. So if you're coming up here and you're just kind of curious what to do, once again, each of these lists if you have questions about the regulations, they have phone numbers for the specific section you may be fishing, and you just give them a call. And I tell you what, when it comes to that Kenai River part, I can't tell you how many people have told me I'm confused. These people at the Alaska Fish and Wildlife, they are used to getting phone calls. They're there to answer your questions. So don't let the fact that, you know, this one book is as thick as these 2 books, don't let that stop you. You can still get out there, have a great time, and tight lines. Thanks for watching Two Tired Teachers.